Good day everyone, I am Eunice Lasso and together with my group mates, we will be discussing about the Lesson 9, Process-Aware Information Systems. In this topic, the contents are: first, the introduction; second, types of process-aware information systems. It consists start the three subtopics: domain-specific process-aware information, business process management systems, architecture of a BPMS, in the case of ACNS. Third, advantages of introducing a BPMS consist of workload reduction, flexible systems integration, execution transparency, and rule enforcement. Fourth, challenges of introducing BPMS, which consist of technical challenges and organizational challenges. And lastly, the summary. In this topic, these are the objectives. First, this chapter deals with information systems that support process automation. Second, we will briefly explain what an automated business process is, after which we'll focus on a specific kind of technology that is particularly suitable to achieve process automation, process-aware information systems, and business process management systems. Third, we will present the different variants of these systems and explain their features. Fourth, we will discuss some of the advantages and challenges that are involved with introducing a BPMS in an organization. Introduction. So first, let's begin with what is Process-Aware Information Systems. A Process-Aware Information Systems, or PAIS, is a software system that manages and executes operational processes involving people, applications, and/or information sources on the basis of process models, and the example of PAIS are workflow management systems, case handling systems, and enterprise information systems, etc. Ang Process-Aware Information System, ito ay isang system na idinisenyo upang maayos na pamahalaan at isagawa ang mga operations na proseso sa loob ng isang business. Ang mga prosesong ito ay madalas na nangangailangan ng cooperation ng mga tao, applications at o pinagmula ng impormasyon. Ang pangunahing kakayahan ng isang PAIS ay matatagpuan sa kakayahan nitong pamahalaan at isagawa ang mga prosesong ito batay sa mga itinakdang structure. For example of PAIS ay ang workflow management system na nagpapadali ng daloy ng mga gawain sa isang maayos na paraan. Second example is case handling systems. Ito naman ay namamahala at nagtataguyod ng mga kaso sa iba't ibang yugto. At enterprise information systems, ito naman ay nagsasanib at nagpapamahagi ng information sa buong organization. Sa kalaunan, pinaigting ng PAIS ang kahusayan at kontrol sa pamamagitan ng sistema, pinaubay at itinutok ang daloy ng mga aktibidad sa loob ng isang business na pinalalakas ang kooperasyon sa pagitan ng iba't ibang bahagi ng systems. These are the types of process-aware information systems. First, domain-specific process-aware information systems. Second, business process management systems. Third, architecture of a BPMS. And lastly, the case of ACNS. So the first steps of process-aware information systems is domain-specific process-aware information systems. Domain-specific aware information systems is subdivided into four systems, which are: first, enterprise resource planning systems or ERP; second, customer relationship management systems or ERM; third, supply chain management systems or SCM; fourth, product life cycle management systems or PLM. These are the commercial offerings support specific range of predefined processes. So the first category is Enterprise Resource Planning System or ERP. First, provide essential and generic business functionality which required across various industries. Second, ERP system support business processes in accounting and controlling, human resources management, and production management. and many more of the classical business function. And lastly, most important processes supported the ERP system are procure-to-pay process and the order-to-cash process. So, the second category is cost management systems or CRM. So, first, for support the marketing and sales. Second, they help to document interaction individual with customers through various channels. Third, they support sales and marketing activities related to products, pricing, distribution, and campaigning. And lastly, the most important processes supported by CRM are campaign to leads and lead to order. So the third category is supply chain management system, CM. So first, they focus on the support of logistics operations that integrate with suppliers and customers. Second, they support the management of freight and transportation, inbound and outbound warehousing, storage, and inventory. Third, they support electronic data interchange with suppliers and customers, as well as various tracking technologies such as radio frequency identifications and barcode scanning. And lastly, they support the key supply chain processes are order to delivery and return to refund. The fourth category is Product Life Cycle Management Systems or PLM. So first, these systems support the various processes of the life cycle of a product from an engineering perspective. Second, in the realization phase, the manufacturing system is planned and actual products are built, assembled, and tested. Third, in the service phase, products are sold and delivered, used, maintained, and eventually disposed of. And lastly, the important processes supported by PLM systems are idea to launch and different types of order processes including build to order, engineer to order, or assemble to order. Next is Business Process Management Systems. A Business Process Management System, or BPMS, is a system that supports the design, analysis, execution, and monitoring of business processes on the basis of explicit process models. Ang Business Process Management Systems, or BPMS, ay isang uri ng software to aim para mapabuti at i-optimize ang mga business processes sa isang organization. Ito din ay nagbibigay daan para sa mga kumpanya na ma-automate ang kanilang mga operasyon, na magkaroon ng masusing monitoring at mapabilis ang decision making. Sa madaling salita, ang BPMS ay nagbibigay ng tools at platform para sa pagbuo, pagmonitor at pagsusuri ng mga business processes na nagre-resulta sa mas maayos na operasyon at pagtutok sa mga pangangailangan ng mga customers. So next is, the purpose of a BPMS is to coordinate an automated business process in such a way that all work is done at the right time by the right resource. So, ang BPMS ay isang standard of the shelf software package na inaalok ng maraming nagbebenta sa iba't ibang uri tulad ng Microsoft SQL Server, IBM, DB2, Oracle Database Server. Sa isang DBMS, posibleng ang mag-record ng company-specific data in a structured way na hindi na kinakailangang isaalang-alang kung paano eksaktong na nagaganap ang retrieval at storage of the involved data takes place. Ang mga gawain na ito ay inaasikaso ng standard na mga facility system. Siyempre, sa ilalim ng isang punto ay kinakailangang i-configure ang DBMS, fill it with data at maaaring kinakailangang na maisaayos ang systems at ang nilalaman nito ng periodically adapt the system and its content to actual demands in a similar manner. A BPMS is also a standard type of software system na nag-aalok ang mga nagbebenta ng iba't ibang BPMS na may iba't ibang set of features covering different phases of the BPM life cycle, from simple systems only catering for the design and automation of business processes to more complex systems also involving process intelligence, functionality, advanced monitoring, and process mining, complex events processing or CEP, service-oriented architecture or SOA, functionality and integration with third-party applications and social networks. So next is the types of business process management systems. The business process management systems is subdivided into 4 systems, which are: first, groupware systems; second, ad hoc workflow systems; third, production workflow systems; and lastly, case management systems. The first type of business process management systems is groupware systems. The groupware systems are that the users is enabled to easily share documents and information and directly communicate with other users. The best known example of a groupware system is IBM Notes. The groupware systems are widely used and particularly popular for their high operational flexibility. On the downside, groupware systems traditionally do not directly support business processes in a strict sense. However, several commercial groupware systems offer workflow extension.
Spectrum of Business Process Management System, or MBPMS. There are several ways to classify the available BPMS. One of the best examples is the diagram below. As you can see, there have 4 examples: the explicitly structured, simplicity structured, ad hoc structured, and unstructured. Under implicity, we have production workflow system. Production workflow system is a step-by-step process that allows you to understand how components must come together to produce a finished product. Production workflows are important for training new team members, scaling your business, and doing good work without having to reinvent the wheel. Next, implicitly structured case management system. Case management system streamlines intake, case tracking, and reporting. It consolidates all case information into a central repository to provide a single source of up-to-date information on ongoing cases. Next is ad hoc structured. Ad hoc workflow system. Ad hoc workflow system is a user-driven process and is independent on the user's ability to correctly assign the index values for the process status index field at the end of their task in order for the work move to the next task in the process. Next is unstructured, the groupware system. Groupware was originally coined to describe a new class of application designed to provide electronic support for groups of individuals working together towards a common goal. The term has been applied to applications ranging from unstructured electronic mail to rigorously structured workflow system. That's the examples under Spectrum of Business Process Management Systems, or BPMS. Business Process Management Systems Ad Hoc Workflow System. It allows on-the-fly process definition that can be created and modified, possible to adapt the process during execution, for example, by adding steps. On the technical level, this system. Private process definition for each case, two major requirements to success. There have end users are aware of the processes in which they operate. Users have sophisticated tools and capability to model. Next is the production workflow systems. Most prominent type of BPMS work is rooted strictly on the basis of explicitly defined process description captured in process models. Operational data is typically handled by complementary DBMS, not allowed to deviate from a process logic. Two types. The administrative BPMS are used in setting where a large portion of work is performed by people. The next is transaction processing BPMS support business processes that are almost fully automated. The last is the case management system. It's also adaptive case management system or ACM. It supports processes that are neither tightly nor completely specified. Case management system is usually fully aware of the precise details of the data belonging to a case, and it able to inform end users about the status and history of a case as well as the most obvious steps to continue with.
Architecture of BPMS. Execution engine. The engine provides different functionality including the ability to create executable process and instances called cases. The ability to distribute work to process participants in order to execute a business processes from a start to end. Altogether, the engine is continuously monitoring the progress of different cases and coordinating with which activities to work on next by generating work item. Process modeling tools. The process modeling tools component offers the functionality such as the ability for users to create and modify process models, the ability to annotate process models with additional data, such as data input and output, participants' business rules associated with activities and performance measure with associated with a process or an activity. It also a process model can be deployed to the engine in order to be executed. This can either be done directly from the modeling tools or from the repository. The next is worklist handler. A worklist handler is the component of a BPMS through which process participants are offered work items and commit to this. It is the execution engine that keeps track of which work items are due and makes them available through the worklist handler of individual process participants. The standard worklist handler of a BPMS can best be imagined as an inbox. The worklist handler might use electronic form of activity input and output data. External services. It may be useful to involve external application in the execution of a business process. In many business processes, there are activities which are performed fully automatically, such that the execution engine can simplify call an external application. For example, to access the credit worthiness of a client, the external application has to expose a service interface with which the engine can be interact. We refer to such application as external services. The execution engine provides the invoke service with the necessary data it will need to performing the activity for a specific case.
roles of perspective. Administration and monitoring tools are the tools necessary for the administration of all operational matters of a BPMS. Consider the actual availability of a specific participant as an example. If someone is unavailable to work because of illness or a vacation, the BPMS has to be made aware of this fact in order to avoid allocating work item to that person. Administration tools are also equipped with a process monitoring functionality. One can use these tools to monitor in performance of a running business processes, in particular with respect to the progress of individual cases. These tools can aggregate data from different cases, such as average cycle of times of cases or the fraction of cases that are delivered too late. The cases of ACNS. We use a simplified view on a process which claims are accessed within the ACNS. The company that stands for a claim is no shame. The figures show the process is an assessment of the claim, which is done by a senior acceptor or a regular acceptor. Regular acceptor are responsible for assessment when the amount of the claim is below $1,000. More valuable claim are accessed by senior acceptor. In case of a negative assessment, it is the responsibility of the account manager to convey the bad news to the customer. In the case of the positive assessment, an electronic invoice is to be generated by a clerk of the financial department who need to dispatch it to the client.
Next is advantages of introducing a BPMS. In this section, we reflect on why it would be attractive for organizations to use a BPMS. There are four broad categories of advantages that we will discuss. First, workload reduction. Second, flexible system integration. Third, execution transparency. And lastly, rule enforcement. The first advantages of introducing a BPMS is workload reduction. A BPMS automates part of the work that is done by people in settings where such a system is not in place. First of all, it will take care of transporting work itself. In a paper-based organization, work is usually transported by internal postal services, often delaying processing for one workday at each handoff or by the participants themselves at the expense of their working time. All such delays are completely eradicated when a BPMS can be used to dispatch work items electronically. In some situations, the BPMS can take care of the entire process by evoking fully automated applications. In such cases, we speak of straight-through processing or STP, particularly in the financial services. Many business processes that used to involve human operations are now in STP mode and coordinated by BPMS. Also, in other domains, think of instance of electronic visa. At least a portion of the cases can be handled in a completely automated fashion. The second type of work that is being taken over by the BPMS concerns coordination. The BPMS uses the process model for determining which activities need to be performed and in what order. So every time the BPMS uses this knowledge to route a work item, it potentially saves some the time to even think about what should be done next. Other form of coordination time save is the signaling of completed work. In a paper-based organization, work will be lying around for quite some time in case of work handoffs. What often happens is that someone takes over work, suspends it for some reason, after which the work package get stuck in other pile of work. The BPMS will at all times be able to signal the status of all work items, and it can take actions to ensure that progress is being made. The final type of workload reduction by using a BPMS is the gathering of all relevant information to carry out a particular task. In a situation without a BPMS, it is the employee who needs to do this collection. Finding the right file in particular, it is never there where you would expect it, can be a time-consuming affair. Note that this type of advantage rests on the assumption that along with the introduction of a BPMS, the effort is taken to digital, digitalize the stream of documents in an organization. The implementation of a DMS is actually what is often observed alongside a BPMS implementation. Certain vendors such as IBM and IS Papyrus offer integrated suites or BPMS and DMS functionality. Other BPMS vendors often have strategic cooperations with companies that offer a DMS such is re- that it is relatively easy to integrate their joint systems. The second advantages of introducing a BPMS is flexible system integration. Originally, the most popular argument to start with the BPMS was the increased flexibility that organizations achieve with this technology. Thus, this best short reflection on the history of computer applications is due. There is an interesting trend as identified by van der Aalst and Van He that generic functionality is split off from application at some point. Roughly throughout the 1965 to 1975 period, computer applications were run directly on the operating systems or OS of the computer. Each application would take care of its own data management and would be using proprietary techniques to do this efficiently. As a result, it turned out to be difficult to share data among applications and to maintain consistency. Clearly, programmers of different applications would be involved with developing similar routines to solve similar problems. From 1975 onwards, DBMS as a new type of standard software emerged that took on the generic task of managing data efficiently. As a result, data could be shared rather easily, and programmers of new applications would not need to worry anywhere about ways to store, query, or retrieve data. Some 10 years later, around 1985, user interface management systems or UIMS were introduced to provide a very generic interface component to many applications through the provision of facilities like drop-down boxes or radio buttons in accessible libraries. Each computer programmer would be able to make use of this. By 1995, the first commercial BPMS enters the marketplace like DBMS and UIMS. In their focus area, the BPMS would provide generic support for the area of business process logic. The introduction of a BPMS is a logical sequel to the separation of generic functionality of what were once monolithic computer programs. Still, in the 1990s, it was estimated that 40% of all the lines of code running on the mainframe computers of banks would have to do with business process logic, not with the calculations of data processing themselves. The typical kind of information processing in the context relates to the identification of activities, their order of execution, or the participants responsible for carrying them out. For example, it would be specified that after a mortgage offering was completed, this needed to be signaled to the manager of the department, triggering a signal on her monitor. The obvious advantage related to this development is that it has been much easier with the BPMS to manage business process logic on its own. This is due to the fact that it is much more convenient to update the description of the business process without having to inspect the application code. Also, the inverse of this scenario would become easier modifying an application while not touching on the order of how things on the business process level would need to unfold. BPMS, in short, would enable organizations to become more flexible in managing and updating their business processes as well as their applications. BPMS also provide the means to glue together separate systems. Large service organizations typically deploy myriads of IT systems which more or less all exist independently of each other. Often, such a situation is referred as island automation. A BPMS may be introduced in such as a means of integrating such systems. It ensures that all the separate systems will play their due role in the business processes support. A word caution is due here. The BPMS itself will offer to direct solution to the problem of redundant storage of information across many different IT systems. In fact, a BPMS will in general have no knowledge of the actual data that end users will manipulate using the various IT systems. If the BPMS is to operate as an integrator between all the existing systems, this will require a thorough information analysis to map which data is used and available. The third advantages of introducing a BPMS is execution transparency. An advantage that is often overlooked is that a BPMS can operate as a treasure trove with respect to the way that business processes are really executed. Sure enough, to have a BPMS operate at all, it must keep track of which work items are. This can be determined by actively monitoring which work items has been completed by which resources and at what time new cases enter the process. Yet for a BPMS to function properly, it is not necessary to keep all that data available once the associated cases are completed. The management overseeing such a process, however, may have an entirely different perspective on this issue. So lastly, of advantages of introducing a BPMS is rule enforcement. Except for the obvious advantage that a business process could be executed more efficiently by using a BPMS. Such a system will also ensure that the process is carried out is precisely the way that it has been designed. When rules are explicitly enforced, this can be considered as a quality benefit. One does what one promises. In many settings, employees will have considerable freedom to carry out a business process in the way it looks best to them or most convenient. This individual assessment does not necessarily coincide with the best possible way a business process executed from the overall perspective of an organization. In this respect, a BPMS can be means to safeguard that business processes are executed in a defined way without any concessions. As an illustration, consider the separation of duties control that is well known in the financial services domain. It means that the registration and inspection of a financial transaction will need to be carried out by different individuals. This type of logic is both quite easily implemented and enforced in a BPMS. The BPMS registers which individual have carried out which work items and can take this information into account when allocating new work items. Note that a BPMS is in general sufficiently sophisticated so that employees can alternatively fulfill the registering and inspecting role for different cases. The capacity of a BPMS to enforce rules is currently of much interest to organizations. Around the year 2000, governmental organizations use BPMS purely for reasons of enforcement such that could prove that they comply with the law. Nowadays, financial and other professional service organizations have become similarly enamored by BPMS, an important development in the rise of various governance framework which started in 2002 with the Sarbanes-Oxley Act as a reaction to misconduct in Enron and WorldCom. The law places a high responsibility with company executives to install management controls and to check their proper execution. Obviously, this is where BPMS can play an important role.
Challenges of introducing a BPMS. Despite the many advantages, there are some notable obstacles to the introduction of a BPMS in an organization. We distinguish as follows. One is the technical challenges, next is the organization challenges. The first challenge of introducing a BPMS is a technical challenges. A challenge that can be addressed with existing expertise, protocols, and operation. It is also implementing solution to a technical challenges often falls to someone with the authority to address them. A specific problem that occurs with respect to the integration existing applications with BPMN is the lack of process awareness of traditional systems. Technical challenges, these solutions are relatively straightforward and expert within an organization can usually address them with consulting the rest of the company. An example of a technical challenges is the RPA. RPA stands for a robotic process automation. A robotic process automation refers to a novel class of software tools that automate tasks or entire business processes, which are heavily based on electrical tasks. A software technology that makes it easy to build, deploy, and manage software robots that emulate humans' action interacting with digital system software. Robotic process automation is used to automate various supply chain processes including data entry, predictive maintenance, and after sale. It is also used to automate high volume route tasks. Telecommunication companies use robotic processes automation to configure new services and the associated billings system for new accounts.
Organizational challenges. BPMS can be challenging from an organizational perspective. The interests of different stakeholders have to be balanced since they usually have diverging performance objectives and be for the same resources. A factor that adds to his complexity is that organizations are dynamic entities. It is fairly usual that during the introductions of a BPMS, which may span a couple of months, organizational rules change, departments are scrapped, combined participants get other responsibilities, and new products are introduced or taken off the market. In this chapter, we discuss process-aware information systems (PAIS) with a specific focus on business process management systems (BPMS). We describe the architectures of a BPMS and its main components, the execution engine, the process modeling tools, and the process model repository, the administration and monitoring tools, and the execution logs, as well as the external services that can be invoked. There are many reasons for considering process automation using a PIS. First, it provides workload reduction in terms of coordination. Work is assigned to process participant or software services as soon as it is available. Second, it offers integration flexibility. Processes can be changed with significantly less effort as compared to legacy systems, provided they are explicitly represented via process models. Third, the execution in the BPMS generates valuable data on how processes are executed, including performance-relevant data. Finally, BPMS improve the quality of process execution as they directly enforce rules such as separation of duties. Introducing BPMS poses various challenges. Technical challenges arise from the fact that many applications that have to be integrated are typically not designed as open systems with transparent interfaces. Beyond that, organizations' challenges are rooted in the fact that BPMS directly interfere with how people do their job. This fact calls for sensitive change management. Thank you.